Hello all, welcome to Docker Basics to Brilliance Codes. My name is Kastro Kiran. In the last videos, we have understood how to create the Docker volumes by using the four different methods. As a part of this particular video, we are going to talk about a new concept that is available in Docker volumes, which is known as mount volumes, or you can also call it as binding the mount volumes. We'll be understanding first what is meant by mount volumes or binding the mount volumes by using a simple analogy, and then I'll be showing you practically how to work with the concept of mount volumes or binding the mount volumes. In the last video, we have created a Docker volume and we have mounted that volume to a Docker container. Now the thing is, instead of mounting a volume, can we mount a directory in the host machine itself? That's the question that we are going to address as a part of this particular video. So let me write that point. Instead of mounting a volume, instead of mounting a Docker volume, can we mount a directory in the host machine itself? In the host machine itself. If this is the question, the answer for this one is yes. We can mount a directory on the host machine itself. So here, what we will do is we will create one host machine. Host machine is nothing but the EC2 instance. First, I will be creating an EC2 instance. And once after we create the EC2 instance, here we are going to install the Docker. We are going to install the Docker. And then we are going to call the instance where Docker is installed, which is known as Docker engine. And then what I will do is I will create a directory here. I will create a directory where I'm going to create the directory inside the EC2 instance, not inside the Docker container or not inside the Docker volume. I'm going to create a directory inside the EC2 instance, and then I am going to mount, or I'm going to use a concept called mount volumes or binding the mount volumes. So let me talk about this concept in detail, and then I'll show you the practicals. If you remember, in the previous session, I have created a volume. I have created a volume. In this session, what we will do is we will look into the concept of bind mounting or binded mounting. So what does it mean by bounded mounting? In this concept, I am not going to create any Docker volume. In this concept, I am not going to create any Docker volume. Instead of creating the Docker volume, what I will do is whatever the data that is generated by the Docker container, I want to mount that data to a particular directory inside the host machine. Instead of creating the volume, what I am doing, I'm not going to create any kind of Docker volume. Instead of that, whatever data that is generated by the Docker container, I am going to mount that data to a particular directory which is available inside the host machine, that is EC2 instance. So here what I want to do, I want to maintain a connection between the directory in the host machine and a Docker container which is also available in the same host machine. So to keep it in a pictorial way, let me draw a point here. Suppose let's say this is my EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance. Now, inside the EC2 instance, what I am going to do, I am going to create a directory. I'm going to create a directory here. Now, as a part of the EC2 instance, I am also going to create a Docker container. I'm also going to create a Docker container inside the same EC2 instance. The EC2 instance is not different. The EC2 instance is same in both the scenarios. So here I'm going to launch one EC2 instance. Once after launching the EC2 instance, I am going to create a directory inside the EC2 instance. This is the directory which I am going to create. Once after creating the directory inside the EC2 instance, I am going to create a Docker container. I'm going to create a Docker container. Once after I create the Docker container, what I will do as a part of this Docker volume part is I am going to establish, I'm going to establish a connection between, I'm going to establish a connection between the directory which is available inside the EC2 instance to the Docker container which is available inside the same EC2 instance. I'm not going to make these things in a different EC2 instances. In the same instance, I will create a directory and I will create a Docker container, and then I will establish a connection between the directory and the Docker container. Now you might have a question, what is the need for establishing the connection between a directory and the Docker container? Suppose, let's say, whatever the files, okay, whatever the files I will keep in the directory, okay, whatever files that I am going to keep in the directory, they should be available inside the Docker container. That means whatever files that I am going to keep inside the directory, all those files should be available automatically inside the Docker container. This is one way. And also, whatever the files I am going to keep inside the Docker container, all those files should automatically be available in the directory which I am going to create. This is what I am going to do in this video. So I'm going to establish a connection between the directory and the Docker container. Whenever I keep some files in the directory, all those files should automatically replicate into the Docker container. Parallelly, whatever things that I'm going to create inside the Docker container, all those files or the directories should automatically come into the directory which is available inside the machine or inside the host machine. What is the host machine here? Our EC2 instance. So here, in order to do this kind of connection, I am going to use a concept which is known as mount volume concept, or this particular concept is called as mounted volume or binding the mount volumes. We are going to bind two different things here so that whenever I keep files in the directory, they will get replicated inside the Docker container. And whenever I keep any files in the Docker container, they will get replicated into the directory which is available inside the host machine. This entire concept is called as mount volumes or binding the mount volumes. So let us do that in a practical way. So firstly, I have created my EC2 instance and I have installed the Docker inside the same EC2 instance, and I have connected to that EC2 instance. So if you want, I can show you whether Docker is installed or not. So if you execute this particular command, you will be getting to know whether Docker is installed or not. Right. Now what I will do, I will create a directory. Okay, I'm going to create a directory. So how will we create a directory? We are going to create a directory by using mkdir command. By using mkdir command. So mkdir -p/, I am going to create the directory in a path that is temp, that is tmp, and then nginx/html. Okay, /html. This is the directory path that I'm going to create. Why I'm using HTML here? Because I'm going to create a simple index.html file. So that is the reason why I'm going to create, or why I'm creating HTML directory. Right. So let me click enter here. So here you might have a question like, what does this -p stands for? Why I am using this particular path, and what is this mkdir? As we know that mkdir is nothing but to create a directory or make directory. So let me explain you why I have used this command and what is the importance of this particular thing in detail. So for that, here you can see mkdir actually stands for make directory. So whenever you want to create a directory, this is the command that we need to use, mkdir. And then what does this -p represent? -p option tells that to create the parent directories as needed. So if you want to create any kind of parent directories, then we can use -p. So if any of the specified directories in that path do not exist, it is going to create them. Okay, if you specify any kind of directories, and if they are not available in the specified path, it will allow, -p allows us to create the directory. And when you are creating the directory, it won't throw any kind of error if there is any other directory that is already available. That's the importance of -p. And then /tmp/nginx/html. What is this? This is the path of the directory I want to create. So in this case, /tmp is a temporary directory, which is commonly used for storing the temporary files. That's the basic default directory. And then nginx is a subdirectory. If you want, you can give any other names also. There is no problem with that. But here I'm creating a subdirectory inside the temporary directory, which is with the name of Nginx. It is just a subdirectory. And inside this Nginx directory, I am going to create another subdirectory, which is known as HTML. Now, in this path, what I will do, I am going to create one index.html file. Okay, I'm going to create one index.html file. I will talk about how to create that index.html file in some time, but let us understand another few concepts here. Suppose if I want to go into this particular path, okay, I want to go into this particular path. So how will you go? CD space the path. So place the path that is /tmp /nginx/html. So we are there inside the /html path. You can see that /tmp /nginx/html path. So if you want to come out of it, okay, if you want to come out of it, how will you come out? CD space dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot. I want to do 3 jumps backward. Okay, I want to do 3 jumps backward. That's why I'm coming out of it. So now if you do pwd, you will be able to see the present working directory, which is a slash. Now, suppose if I want to go into /home/root EC2 user path, how will you go? CD space /home/EC2-user path. Now, if you do pwd, you can see I'm currently there inside the /home/EC2 user path. This is the path that I'm currently there. Now, here what I will do, I am going to run the Docker container for an image which is called as Nginx image. Okay, I'm going to use Nginx in order to create the HTML file. So that's the reason why I have created the Nginx directory also, or Nginx subdirectory inside the temporary directory. So let's run the Docker container for Nginx image. So in order to run the Docker containers, or in order to create the image, we need to be a root user. Currently, what user I am? I am the EC2 user. If you do who am I, you will be getting to know what is the type of user I am currently. I am the EC2 user. So how to switch to the root user? Sudo su is the command to switch to the root user. Now, if you do who am I, you can see I am the root user, right? Once after we become the root user, now we are ready to run the Docker container for Nginx image. So how will you run? Docker run, okay, Docker run -d. What does -d represents? In a detached mode. Okay, -d represents run the container in a detached mode. And then -p. -p represents port mapping. So I'm going to use host port number and container port number as 8080. Host port number as 80 and container port number as 80. And then -v space the path, the source location. Okay, the source location. What is the source location? /tmp/nginx/html. This is the path that is called as source location. What is this path? This path is something which I have created just now. And then /user, that is usr/share/nginx, okay, /nginx/html, okay, /html space --name, and then give the container name. Let's say I am going to give the container name as a new container. Okay, new container. And then the image name. What image I want to pull? Nginx image. So Nginx : the latest image of Nginx I want to pull. So here it is better to understand this particular thing. So here /tmp/nginx/html. This thing represents the source location, which is available on my local EC2 instance, on my local machine, local directory path in the EC2 instance. And then /user/share/nginx/html. What is this location? It is the destination location. What is our destination location? Docker container location. Okay, Docker container location. And then --name. What is this name? Container name. Okay, this is the container name. Okay, new container is the container name. And then Nginx : latest. Why I'm using Nginx image? Because I'm going to run the HTML page on the Nginx. Okay, on the Nginx server. That is what I am doing. So here we are trying to pull the Nginx latest image. Suppose if this image is not available in the local machine, it will connect to the Docker hub and then it will pull from the Docker hub. That we know, right? So let me click enter so that the command will get executed. So you can see it is unable to find the Nginx image locally, and then it has connected to the Docker library or the Docker hub, and it has pulled the image. Now, if you do Docker images, you will see the Nginx image. Now, can you see the Nginx latest image which got pulled? Nginx latest image which got pulled? Yes. So this is how we can pull the latest image. Now, if you remember, in the last session, we have created a volume. In this session, what I am trying to do, we are not going to create any volume here. Okay, I'm not going to create any kind of volume here. Instead of that, we are directly mounting to my local directory. So I have created a local directory path, right? So in this path, I'm going to mount. So let me copy the public IP address of the EC2 instance, and then we will see what to do with that. So this is the public IP address of the EC2 instance, and then go to the new tab, paste it, and then click enter. Now you can see it is not going to work it out. The reason is that we haven't opened the port number 80. If you remember, what is the port I have opened? -P 8080. That is the port, 80 is the port that I have opened or that I have worked. So here, first let us open the port number 80. So select the EC2 instance, go to security. Under security, you can see the security groups. So click on the security group link, inbound rules, edit inbound rules, and then we have to open the port number 80 here. So port number 80, and the source is anywhere IPv4 address, and then click on save rules. Right, that's I have done the port opening. Now let me reload the page. Now, if you see, the loading is happening, and here, if you see, it is showing 403 forbidden error and Nginx image name. Okay, image and the version 1.27.1. Now let us work with this one. Now what I have done, I have pulled the Nginx image. Okay, I have pulled the Nginx image, and I have created a local directory in my EC2 instance. Now what I will do, I will create some HTML file inside my path which I have created, which is available on the local machine. Okay, in this path is available where? In the local machine. Where, how this path came? This path came because I have created the directory. Okay, I have created the directory. Now, what is my intention? Whatever things that I am going to keep inside this particular path, all those things should come into the container. Okay, all those things should come into the container. Which container? New container. That's the name of the container which I have used. New container. So let us do that. So now, currently, let's verify whether container is running or not. How will you verify whether container is running or not? Docker PS, and you can see the Nginx new container. Okay, Nginx latest is the image, and this is the container name. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you will be able to see that Docker PS. You can see this is the container. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Docker PS. You can see what is the container name? New container is the container name. Now what I will do, whatever files that I am going to create inside this particular path, all those files should come into which path? Should come into my new container. Okay, should come into my new container. So let me clear the screen. So now let us create index.html file. Okay, let us create index.html file. Now, what is my current working directory? /home/EC2 user. I am currently there in the host machine, not inside the container or not inside the volume. So far, I have not created any volume. I have just created the container. How to verify the container? Docker PS. You can see the new container is available. Right. So let's create index.html file. So I can create the index.html file in my local directory, that is in my present working directory /home/EC2 user, or I can go to the directory which I have created. What is the directory which I have created? If you do ls, sorry, what is the directory which I have created? I have created /tmp/nginx/html. You can create either in the /home/EC2 user path, or you can also create /tmp/nginx/html. So let me create in the path which I have created. So /tmp/nginx/html. You can also create the file inside this particular path also. There is no problem. The files will come into the container. That will come by default. Or you can also create the files inside a specific path or a specific directory, right? So I'm switching to that particular directory first, cd space the path. So cd space slash nginx. So the name is incorrect, slash tmp slash nginx slash html. That's the path that I'm going to use, right? If you do pwd, you can see I'm in which path, slash tmp slash nginx slash html. So let me create one index.html file. So how will you create a file? vi index.html. Okay, vi is the command, which is a text editor, Visual Studio text editor, and I'm trying to create a file with this name, index.html. So let me click enter, and I am there inside the file. Press character I in your keyboard to go inside the file. I have pressed I. Let me write the content. Welcome to Docker Basics to Brilliance Coach. Welcome to Docker Basics to Brilliance Coach by Kastro. This is the content which I am writing. Where I am writing this content inside the slash tmp slash nginx slash html. So let me come out of the file, press escape colon wq. Press escape colon wq. Right, I have come out of the file. If you do cat space index.html, you can see the content. Okay, you can see the content. So here, index.html file, where I have created inside my local machine in a particular directory. This directory is available inside my local machine, not inside the container. Okay, now what should happen? What I was telling here, if you remember, I was telling the concept, whatever files that I am going to keep inside the directory, all those files should come into the container. Okay, all those files should get replicated into the container. Can I verify that? Yes. So how will you verify? I have created an index.html file. So let me go to the browser and let me reload this page. If you reload this page, you are able to see the content, whatever you have kept inside the file or inside the directory which we have created. So are we able to do that? Can I say now that whatever files that I have kept in the directory, they are replicating inside the Docker container? Yes. How I am able to access the files? I'm just going to paste the public IP address of the instance. And then when I reload, whatever content that I have kept inside the index.html file, where is my index.html file? It is there in my local machine. So whatever content that I have kept in the local machine, is it getting replicated into my container? Yes, it is getting replicated into my container. Right. So there is a mounting between the directory and container here. That is what I have established. So I have established a connection between the directory and the Docker container. If you want, you can also do it in a reverse way. You can keep the content in the Docker container that will get replicated inside the directory as well. Both ways it will. Okay, this concept is called as mounting. Okay, this concept is called as mounting. So if you want to create or if you want to update the index.html file, suppose let's say I want to update the index.html file. So vi index.html. Let me click enter and let me go to the insert mode and let me write some extra content here. Let's say this is Docker volumes part 4. Okay, this is Docker volumes part 4. So I have written this additional content here. Currently, what is the content that we are seeing in the browser? I am able to see only this particular content. Now what I will do, I am updating this content. Okay, I'm updating this content. So let me press escape colon wq. So cat space index.html file. So click enter. Now what I should see this updated content along with my old content also. Let's verify whether we are able to see the updated content or not. So here, what I will do is I will just reload the page. So when I reload the page, I should also see the additional content which I have just updated. So let me reload the page. Now, can you see? This is Docker volumes part 4. Like this, whenever you update the content inside the index.html file, automatically all that content will get replicated into the container. Okay, this entire concept is called as using bind volumes or binding the mount volumes, or you can also call it as mount volumes concept. Right. So this is all about the volumes, that is a Docker volumes concept. Right. Before I close the Docker volumes concept, let me talk about one simple concept which is known as stateless containers. Okay, stateless containers versus stateful containers. What is this? stateless containers versus stateful containers. So stateless containers and stateful containers are something which are commonly asked in the interviews, especially when you are applying for junior DevOps engineer role. So what is meant by a stateless container? Suppose, let's say, once the container is deleted, once the container is deleted, whatever the data, whatever the data that is available, that is available inside the container, will also gets deleted. Okay, whatever the data that is available inside the container will also get deleted. That is called as stateless containers. Okay, that is called as a stateless containers. So what is happening in the stateless containers? When you create a container and when you store any kind of data inside the container, and once when you delete that container, automatically whatever the data that is available inside the container, all the data will also gets deleted. This concept is called as stateless containers. Okay, this concept is called as stateless containers. Then what about stateful containers? Stateful containers is nothing but even the container is deleted. Okay, even the container is deleted, the data inside the container, the data inside the container will not get deleted. Okay, will not get deleted. What is this type called as? This type is called as stateful containers. Okay, this type is called as a stateful containers. Stateless containers means when you delete the container, data inside the container will also get deleted. Stateful containers nothing but when you delete the container, the data inside the container will not get deleted. Only the container will get deleted. Now, by default, whatever the Docker containers that you are creating, all the Docker containers, let me write that point, note, all the Docker containers are stateless containers. By default, all the Docker containers are stateless containers. Okay, every Docker container or all the Docker containers are stateless containers. Now, how will you make a Docker container as a stateful container? How will you make a Docker container as a stateful container? Let me write another note point. To make a Docker container, as a stateful container, we have to use, Docker volumes concept. That is what we have understood so far. In the 4 parts of Docker volumes, including this particular video, we have seen that one. Even if I delete the container, the data inside the container will not get deleted. How the data is being persisted? It is being persisted because of the Docker volumes. Because of the Docker volumes. So this is all about the concept that is related to the Docker volumes. In the next video, we are going to start a new concept that is available in the Docker, which is known as a Docker Compose. Thank you.